Our body is composed of many hard workers called cells who are working overtime every day just to keep you alive. Unfortunately, sometimes these hard workers will get diseases. They can miss bits and pieces and malfunction. This, at a large scale, could cause serious problems. Problems such as today's video's topic, familial hypercholesterol.
Familial hypercholesterolemia.
So what is this disease that is super hard to pronounce? Essentially, it is an inherited disease caused by the mutation of genes that result in the malfunction of the plasma membranes, an organelle in which we will explain later. This malfunction prevents the body from getting rid of a type of cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol, that can build up in the arteries and cause heart diseases. One of the symptoms of the disease is a high cholesterol level, since the body can't get rid of it. The high cholesterol that remains in your body can result in buildups that would be physically seen, such as fatty deposits under the skin of hands, elbows, knees, or eyes. A white or gray ring could also appear around the iris of the eye. The high cholesterol level causes arteries and blood vessels to be clogged. To understand this more easily, imagine your blood vessels as highways. These cholesterols are cars. If more and more cars continue to get on the highway but none ever leave, then eventually there will be a traffic jam. Now, this traffic jam is not ideal. In the real world, at worst, you just waste a few hours. However, if you get a traffic jam in your arteries, your heart doesn't receive blood. Your body shuts down as you slowly start to face death. This is commonly known as a heart attack. So, not very ideal. Unfortunately, people with
Familial hypercholesterolemia.
have a very high risk of heart disease and therefore death at a very young age. Heart attacks could occur before the age of 55, and in severe cases, they could result death before the age of 20. Now, if you remember, earlier I said that the buildup of cholesterol is ultimately caused by a malfunctioning plasma membrane. So what exactly is it? Plasma membranes are the walls around your cells. They act as a protective barrier to keep the bad germs and unwanted molecules out of your cell. They also control what goes into your cell, such as cholesterols. Lastly, they facilitate the communication between different cells and maintain the structural integrity of the cell. However, with familial hypercholesterolemia, the proteins on the cell membrane that's responsible for bringing in the LDL cholesterol into your cell, the LDL receptors, malfunctions. But how do these proteins even work? Let me explain that with some Clash Royale gameplay. Imagine this hog rider as the LDL cholesterol in your bloodstream. Now imagine this fisherman as the LDL receptors. Just like how the fisherman recognizes the hog rider, the receptors will actively recognize the LDL cholesterol. And just like how the fisherman pulled the hog rider towards the king tower to activate it and kill the hog rider, the receptors will bind tightly to the cholesterol and engulf it into the cell, where it is broken down for the cell to use. When the LDL receptors malfunction, cholesterol can't get removed from the bloodstreams. What's even worse is that these cells are also factories. Normally, when the LDL cholesterol gets brought into the cell, it is brought to the lysosome so that it can be broken down and released into the cell. Another organelle, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, is responsible for making cholesterol. Since the lysosome has nothing to break down as there's no cholesterol in the cell, this endoplasmic reticulum detects no cholesterol, and it therefore thinks that there's a shortage of cholesterol and will make even more, contributing to its buildup in the blood vessels. Normally, the rough ER produces the LDL receptors, which is a protein. It is then delivered to the cell via the Golgi apparatus. However, under the effect of familial hypercholesterolemia, the proteins could be folded wrong and not function at all or not be sent out to the cell membrane. There are treatments for this disease, but most of them doesn't directly target the plasma membrane. The most common treatment is to just remove the LDL cholesterol from the bloodstream, known as LDL apheresis. This process works by physically drying out blood, filtering out the LDL cholesterols, and then putting them back into the patient. Some other treatments include statin, which blocks cholesterol production in the smooth ER, PCSK9 inhibitors, which prevents the breakdown of LDL receptors to have as many of them as possible, or ezetimibe, which reduces cholesterol absorptions in the intestines so less cholesterol enters the bloodstream.